Finishing the first act in Path of Exile 2 requires you to kill a pretty hard boss. Geonor is the first act boss that you're going to be encountering in Path of Exile 2, and for me personally, it had quite the learning curve. I found a lot of things that were wrong with my build, with the way I was approaching my flasks, my resistances, a whole bunch of stuff. So I had to make the changes. And in this video today, I want to go over what changes I made to help myself beat Geonor. And in addition to that too, I'm going to break down every step of the fight to help you show what his big attacks are, what the telegraphs are, what the vocal cues are, stuff like that. Now, in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge in my video, I'm going to tell you just kind of the quick down and dirty things. I don't want to spoil this fight for you. I want you to try and beat the fight on your own. I'm going to give you the tips in the first 6 minutes of the video that are the things that I did to make the fight easier for me. But again, in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge, basically, make sure you shore up your cold resistances. Make sure you have flasks that are both magic and have max modifiers. You're going to be using orbs of transmutation, the Elric brothers transmutating, whatever the hell the orbs are that makes them magic, and then the other one that adds an mod to them. Also, make sure you're using a charm that has cold resistance, and add into your build from the passive skill tree any kind of passive health regen or mana regen, depending on type of character you are. That's just some of the down and dirty tips that can really just get you through this entire fight. For me personally, I failed like 8 or 9 times. And then when I swapped my cold resistance up, I failed one more time and then I beat it. So hopefully those tips are all that you need to complete the fight. And like I said, the first 6 minutes of this video after this point are just me going over those tips in more detail. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I don't want to spoil the fight for you. You can jump into those first 6 minutes if you wish. And then after that, if you want to really get into the nitty gritty, it is available for you. You can use the chapters in both the timeline and the description. I go through just the tips, then I go through phase 1 and then phase 2 of the fight for the very first Act 1 boss. Outside of that, though, if this is all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down and get back to enjoying Path of Exile 2. Before you head out, though, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. In addition to that, too, I am also streaming this on my Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Swing on by. We were just failed the Trials of Ascendancy a bunch of times, so we're going to try to knock that out. You can find a link to that in the description and the pinned comment. But let's get started here on the Act 1 boss guide for Path of Exile 2. Loading into the game, let's go over the non-spoiler section here. Like I said before, this section is derived to just show you little things that you can do to make it easier for you to actually deal with the boss. If you want to see me actually go through and show you how I dealt with it, you can go ahead and go forward. But just taking a look at some stuff off the gate, we're going to bring out of the gate, we're going to bring up our character. And what I want you to look at here is your cold resistance. This is the thing that's going to be really going to help you out in dealing with damage from the Act 1 boss. If you have low cold resistance, remember 75 is the cap, then you're going to be taking a significant amount of damage. Right now mine is lower because I'm in the next act and you'll have a penalty every act, I believe it is. So making sure you have good cold resistance is really the key to this. And how you can get that is from jewelry. Now you can buy jewelry from people, you can find it on things, but certain gems here, so right here, so the Lazuli Ring of the Seal, this has 7 cold resistance. I have one over here that gives me 21 cold resistance. If I put both of these on, I'm gonna be at 20% additional cold resistance. That's gonna be a significant increase or decrease, actually, as it were, to the amount of cold damage I'm gonna be taking from this boss. It does a ton of cold damage in its second phase, a lot more physical damage in its first phase. So it might even be chaos sprinkled in somewhere, I'm not really sure. But either way, cold damage is going to be the biggest thing to helping you out. Now, in addition to that, once you've gotten your resistances squared away, you want to take a look at your flasks. I mean, I have the next act of flasks, but you want to have the best flasks that you can find for that location, and you want to have ones that are going to really help you out. So for example here, this is increased amount recovered, then 30% chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy. In that fight, there are adds being a term, if you don't know, where there are additional monsters come and attack you in the middle of the fight, without spoiling it for you. If you have this gives you a chance to get more charges when you kill those generic enemies, making it so that you can have more uptime with your flasks. And remember, take advantage of these merchants here. If I come over here, she's got all these ones. Okay, increase charge, increase amount, recovered. If I look at a white flask or a blue flask, this one, for example, it only has one mod on it, or in this case, there's 0 mods. So make sure you use your orbs of transmutation to upgrade normal items to magic items, and then after that, if they only have one mod on them, make sure you use orb of augmentation to get 2 mods. This is going to make your flasks a lot better, because maybe you're taking a look and you've got a flask like this, you're like, okay, well, I just have the increased amount recovered. You might as well go spend that very cheap resource to get yourself some more survivability when it comes to your health. In addition to that too, do the same thing with your mana flasks. Make sure you've got your mana flask giving you as much total mana as you can. Even on a warrior, my mana is still a problem, so I want to make sure I've got good mana. The key to that fight is making sure you're not constantly using your mana or your flasks, because they don't recover in the middle of the fight. Well, they will, just sparingly. So you don't want to burst through both of your flasks in the first phase, come to the second phase, and now you don't have anything, which is the true endurance of the fight. So we've talked about our flasks, we've talked about the cold resistance. Let's also talk about our charm slot, because you have a belt on. A belt will give you 1 charm slot, as you can see right here. And my charm right now is fire resistance geared, but for that fight, try to find one that is cold resistance. This is an additional 25% cold resistance, and it's used when you take fire on damage from a hit. This is going to be different from every single charm. They've got different parameters and what have you, but you can also use the same orbs I talked about to add additional thing, recover life when used, and 37% increased charges. So this gives me the chance to get more fire resistance, and I get a little health from it. So here's an example too on, this is Una, right? Yeah, on Una, she sells a charm right here. I can't be stunned anymore. Use when you become stunned. But I can go use an orb on this and add 2 more modifiers, which is great. Here's another one over here, but this is for lightning resistance. But this is the nice one. Your speed is unaffected by slows. There are tons of slows in that fight. So this is an example of a charm that is not cold resistance, but is still going to benefit me quite a bit when dealing with all of the mechanics of said fight. So now again, we've gone over our flasks, we've gone over our charms, we've gone over jewelry and the amount of cold resistance it can give you. I say jewelry because it's the easiest way to get cold resistance turned on. You can get it, of course, on your armor. It's just more of a gamble, in my opinion. I know that if I use a ruby ring, it's going to have fire resistance on it. So that's kind of a nice thing to know. Lastly, jumping into your skill tree, type in regen on the top here. Part of the longevity that you can tap into for your flasks is getting any kind of health or mana regen on and as fast as possible in your build. Remember, you can just respec this at the hooded figure by spending some gold. So I have this right here for more armor. That's going to help me out survivability wise. Regenerate 0.5% of my life per second and plus 10 strength. The regenerate life per second is actually very advantageous. I can get that more here and more here, but that's just the warrior. Let's take a look over here at, like, say, the monk. I can tap into this for mana regen, mana regen, mana regen, mana regen. If I'm looking over here at the ranger, you don't really have much. Even the mercenary does. Sorry, down here. God, I almost died in the middle of that conversation. For flask life recovery rate, and that's another one too you can look up. Flask life recovery rate for your flasks to help you get more from the resources at a faster rate or whatever it is. But those are just some examples here, right? If you just type in regen, look it around. If I'm playing a sorceress or a witch, there's plenty of it right here in this location. And these are early nodes, right? I'm not telling you like, yeah, before you do Act 1 fight, make sure you get these ones up here. Those are so far away. So try to focus on some of the passives that are going to help you. And the nice thing is, yeah, sure, you can refund them after the fight, but those are probably passives that you needed in the build that you didn't realize you needed to begin with. So use it as a kind of a test to say, oh, okay, this is the test of my build. I need to kind of shore up the gaps here in my mana regeneration, or maybe some energy shield too is another one that you can type in here if you're any of the caster characters, because this whole top right portion of the branch, the north and northeast, are filled with energy shield related nodes that you can tap into to give you a lot more survivability. So those are just some tips to help you out without giving you a full spoiler breakdown of the fight. Now, for those that want that spoiler, let's jump into it. So we're going to do this kind of low tech here. I'm going to basically pause every so often. I'm going to talk about things, and I'll use my cursor to try to illustrate as best as possible. So coming into this actual fight, and we'll turn the volume down on this as much as, well, we'll need to turn it up at certain points. I'll do that. I turn it all the way up. I realize that I've got the actual sound here a little bit lower for you bros. So we jump into the fight. Just before, if you've already failed the fight once or twice, what's notable here is you can kind of set yourself up. I'm, for example, using a totem-based warrior. So I've set my totems up right out the gate. So he's going to jump onto those. And I'm going to use my Earthquake. It gives me just a little bit of damage. Well, in that case, it didn't. But you can get a little damage on board before. A lot of bosses have these little moments where you can get access to that. So Count Geonor is going to have one phase, followed by a second phase, where he's going to summon up some adds. He's going to do some jumping things. And we're going to break down a lot of the big telegraphs so you can see them here. Right now, it's pretty much just a matter of... I have a shield up, so I'm just kind of dealing with the hits. But he just pretty much does like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 type of swing. I'll tell you, run little rabbit. That means he's going to do a big skewer. If he hits you with that, it's going to be a pretty big amount of damage. We want to try to waste as little flask charges in this phase as possible. So use that natural life regen, use that natural mana regen, try to dodge as much as you can. Remember, you're not going to take any damage during your dodge rolls. So maximize them to the best of your ability. And like that, you can just take a hit right to the face like I did. Because he usually follows this up with that ability right there, where it gets a big, huge sweep that is going to be frost damage. It's going to slow you down. And he'll do this charge, as you can see. That right there, that's not going to be the skewer. The skewer, if you saw a little bit ago, it's a pretty fast jump into it, right? As he comes over here, he just immediately jumps in. When you see that aura appear around him, that's when he's going to do that big attack over here a second ago. There it is. First one's high. You just got to dodge out of the way because it's just going to be a direct line attack. And just kind of dodge around this point. You can really dodge his attacks very easily. I mean, I have a shield. I'm a melee character. You're probably at range. So just look for those big telegraphs. It's going to be easy to pretty much dodge. You know that this one right here is going to be the big bolt. There you go. And just kind of push your way through this. And it's going to be a lot of the same thing. For me, I've got stun resistance built up, or stun, so I just did that. And I'm trying to, as soon as we get him to 50% health, he starts the second phase. One thing that you can really do to help maximize your output in this stage is ensuring that you get him to 50% before he transforms into a wolf prior to his second stage. So watch, he'll turn into a wolf right now. Oh, I thought he was right there. There we go. So unfortunately, I missed it, but this ability we're going to talk about it more in the second phase, but watch what the wolf does. The second you see that, start running in one direction. I mess it up a ton here. You're going to see me get hit by this because what he does is he drops down from the ceiling and he does a big, huge blast attack. And when that happens, it just chunks a ton of damage away from you. And it's very avoidable, but you just know that you have to know that to telegraph that ahead of time. As soon as you see him like disintegrating into like a bloody red mist like that, get the hell out of there. Just basically choose a direction and run. Oh, and mess up the video like I just did right there. Because this is going to come down. And realistically, I could have evaded that by dodging, but I didn't. Because if sometimes you'll be around the center point of it and you go to dodge and you actually are still in the middle, and that just means you're going to get fucking hit. And again, try to use this time. He's a little less aggressive in this stage of being a wolf, but try to get out of it. And now he's at the 50% point. He'll stop doing what he's doing and he'll go into stage 2. You're going to deal with wolves like I did, and I messed that up pretty badly. But this starts our second phase. So into the second phase now, what we're going to notice is there's going to be an add phase, there's going to be a mist phase, and he's got 2 big attacks that we're going to try to dodge and move around. So now that he's begun that phase, the wolf that he turns into grows some just gnarly dreadlocks, my bro. I shouldn't even do dreadnoughts. Has 2nd set of arms. There's all sorts of crazy. So that's one of his big things. He'll say Chilling Frost, and he'll shoot this cone frost thing. The biggest thing that you want to do is obviously evade it. But what's important here is to not get slowed down in this fight. Mobility is king in this fight. And if you're playing a range class, staying away from this should be a little bit easier, a little bit more avoidable. Another one too is Requiem on high. So he's going to bring his sword up, say Requiem on the high, and this is another situation where you just need to start moving. Mambo number 5, get the thing moving around. When's the last time you heard a Mambo number 5 reference? Just made it. And of course, just avoid this and the splash. You're going to deal with 4 of these. So you did 1, 2, 3, and then a 4th one. Once you do that, you're pretty much in the clear. I would just tell you to serpentine, roll like a zigzag, move zigzags. Do not roll. If you have to roll, it's better be from a situation where you're pinned up against the wall and you're rolling away from the wall. What I've noticed in my character personally, maybe this is dependent upon evasion or movement speed, whatever it is. If you roll, you will put yourself in a situation where your character's animation locks you into getting hit by the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th beam, whatever it is in the sequence. Don't worry, I'll fuck it up. You'll see it. So I will take out your heart. It's going to be another one. He's going to throw this down, and it's going to grow these little circles all over the place. They're little tiny like frost herpes. So basically, these are where these big spikes are going to come out from the ground, and you want to evade those locations. It's worth noting, though, you can actually, if you time this just right, you can evade the damage of those if you evade right at the right time. I don't think I do it in this segment. So, just to kind of recap that, we were completely clear. Nothing was around us. It gave me an opening to go to town if I could. We're going to come into the mist phase, which brings us to the end of this video. So, we're going to start with the second video. But, what's important here is this is an adds heavy phase. You're going to do a lot of dodge rolling. You're going to do a lot of evading. You want to not get hit by Geonor himself, because he's the one who's going to do tons of damage. The adds are going to be tricky. I'm using totems to divert their attention as best as I can, and it seems to also divert his attention. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not 100% sure on it. So let's go ahead and see. And he's going to go through like a poem, like a haiku, right? It's not a haiku, like a limerick. Every time he says a sentence, he's going to attack you. Where he ended his attack, he's going to come from on the next sentence. So let's kind of show this off here. So unfortunately, the video that I had cut out an interim portion of this fight. Don't worry, we're going to scrub back and we'll get the rest of this fight so you can see it. But for continuity's sake, let's keep talking about this mechanic. What's gonna happen too, once Geonor gets around 30% health, he's gonna summon down these like blood ice spikes that are gonna do damage everywhere. You have to just evade those when you see them. You're gonna see them here. By the time like where you saw where I was at the fight, they won't have appeared, but it does appear. You're just gonna have to deal with it when it happens, so might as well talk about it now. So when this mist comes up, the big thing you wanna do is try to time your jumps, your evade, right when you see him materialize, because that usually gives him, like, so I can see him coming down from the south here, that usually gives you the chance to dodge out of the way. Every time he says a sentence, that's how you know he is going to come out from the mist and attack you. Of course, you have to deal with the adds, though, at the same time. I'm using my minion to help me with my totem here, so do whatever you can to try to evade that situation. Use any kind of get out of jail free cards you've got, like for the ranger, for example. Do your jumping ice explosion. Yeah, it's not going to do ice damage, but it's a mobility skill. Use your mobility to get out of this. So I don't do this properly. I mistime it. Take a chunk of damage. Now, originally, I thought that direction he ends is the direction he comes from, but it looks like that might change towards the 50% mark. Either way, every time he says a new sentence, that is a cue that he's about to come from a direction. So he came out this way, we dodged, rolled away, and we got away from that damage. But Swift is death. He's coming right now. He came from the same direction he went this time, so I don't know what the rule was there. But as soon as he materialized, I dodged. And imbued by the moon. He's coming again. Came from roughly the same direction, right? He went down here, but now he's coming from this direction. Right as he starts to materialize, we're dodging. Right out of that damage. First are gifted. Came in from the left this time. But we know as soon as we hear that. There we go. So he's going to do this until he'll say 2 sentences back to back. Agnar shall slay again. That's how I know he's going to stop doing the jump through the map, but he's just going to do a big jump attack onto me. We want to just dodge that as well. So I'm going to bring us back to the beginning of this video. And there you go. You can see the kind of end of that whole phase. We're dealing now with those blood spikes. Just trying to evade those, just like we did before. And there's the I will take out your heart. Remember, this is the patches on the ground. We're just trying to really move around those. And unfortunately, I kind of got a little hit there, but it's okay. As long as you're not taking a full blast in the face, those blood spikes are just going to keep doing what they do. And this is a good example of actually evading this mechanic properly, because this is probably the 8th or 9th time I had attempted this. So I had kind of gotten the telegraphs down here, but there it goes. So he's starting to do this little dissolving thing. I'm just moving in one direction, and I could see where that was coming easier than trying to run in circles and actually just put myself in the path of that destruction. You can see right there was a chance. I did dodge out from where there was going to take frost damage there, but just be evasive, just trying to move around from those little tiny pockets. So this comes into the mist phase. I'm going to skip this because we just saw it. We're going to go right through to here. And there's another thing, too, I forgot to talk about. So he'll exit that phase and usually do these big 360 slashes, or 180 then 180 for a total 360. So this is what I was talking about, where sometimes you get pinned against the wall with this. Just try to find a pocket that's open and then dodge right through it. And that's an example of almost mistiming that. I just barely got out of it because I got a little too blinders on. I wanted to come in here and do a slam into him, but he already started the mechanic to jump up into the sky. So just try not to overlap yourself too much and get overextended, basically. And again, rolling out of that cold, making sure I don't take any of that big frost damage, gets slowed down. And he does do these big jumping bites. If you're a range class, I would say just to try to move around him in a circle, as tight of a circle as you can. You see it's a lot easier to move around those. I mean, I have a shield up, so it's really beneficial for me, but again, trying to move out from those for the last second. So that's the fight. And the biggest things, of course, are not getting hit when he does the cone of frost, because that's going to slow you down. Not getting hit on the things that you know you can avoid. If you get hit by like this attack here, you know, it just is what it is. It's not too heavy of an attack anyway, so it shouldn't be too bad. But trying to see the patterns of when you've got these big attacks like this coming, right? Like, okay, I know I can avoid this, but I still, I know I can avoid this. Watch my health. I still took damage from this thing. I should have rolled right there. I didn't. I rolled late. So when you see yourself, it's just like the MMO rule, right? Like the MMO rule, don't stand in shit. It's the same thing here. You don't want to stand in any of this crap, because it's going to go from, hey, I'm not too bad, to I just got tanked in my damage. And making sure to keep your flasks from getting too drained too fast in the fight keeps you in the fight longer. You do get the chance to regenerate some of these flasks on those wolves if you have flasks that can do it. But hopefully this now gives you an idea of how to approach Geonor, the putrid wolf, in a way that you can actually beat it. It took me quite a few times, and the first time he completely rickrolled me. I went and beat him, I was like, cool, I'm good. Then he started his second phase and he shit on me. And that's okay. That's half the fun of this process. But once you learn these telegraphs, you're off. I keep saying telegraphs. Once you learn these move sets, you're off to a good start. The biggest thing that changed this fight for me I went from losing, putting on cold resistance, losing once, and then beating the boss. So I cannot stress enough how big of a difference cold resistance is. I went from just getting massive chunks of damage done to not so much, because I was able to deal with less damage coming my way from all of the cold abilities. So make sure you get that cold resistance up and you'll be in a better shape for Geonor. But if you have any recommendations or suggestions for how to beat this boss, go ahead and let it be known in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this, let me know if you want more guides on how to beat certain bosses within the game. But as always, guys, so thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.